I'm James Johnston, Manager of Training and Support at MicroSurvey Software. I'm pleased that I've been asked to give you a bit of an overview of the import and export capabilities of the product MicroSurvey CAD. When I talk to customers who know MicroSurvey CAD very well and have been using it for years, and I ask them what's one of the key ingredients that keeps you with us, and very often what they'll answer is it's something along the lines of they just like the way we're always focused on points. They're surveyors. They understand that their task is to build a drawing or a report or a CAD file from survey generated points. And they find that MicroSurvey's emphasis of tools that allow you to manage points and field work just fits their workflow the best. They just like the way we think. And it is a good idea to characterize the product as it being kind of like a points management program that happens also to allow you to build a CAD file from it, which differentiates it from a lot of other solutions out there where they build the CAD product, but really the points are kind of thrown in as a bit of an afterthought. So I'll focus on the selection of ways that MicroSurvey CAD allows you to manage points based on survey-generated data in this series of examples. So the first import-export question, of course, that comes up is, can you handle CAD files? Yes. Autodesk-compatible CAD DWG files is MicroSurvey's native format, and when you get DWG files from other sources, you simply open them and you can start to work with them. When you save a file, it's the same thing. That's the format that we save in, along with a secondary file that stores the specific survey-related information. You can also convert to and from DGN format and a number of BIM formats. Because you're working with an Autodesk compatible program, what you'll find is almost all of the functions that are common to an Autodesk program will be available in MicroSurvey CAD. So all of the drawing and editing functions are there, and you'll notice also that I've brought in a layout, and you can use all of the options of layout technology to create your final product. Now, on to talking about how we can import field data. So, of course, the most basic format is points, and quite simply, MicroSurvey has lots of features dealing with points. You can import points from a text source as most common formats. This is very common for surveyors who like to use StarNet as their field data processing solution and then bring points into the drawing to generate the final product. You can always interact with your points by using the active coordinate editor to view, sort, and perform operations with. On to field data, and specifically traverse data. I'll switch over to the traverse ribbon, and I'll show you, first of all, options that you've got for importing data. So over here in import raw data, you can import a wide range of traverse data formats, and so highlights are the like Captivate DVX format. We go much further down, the well-known TDS format, and more recently the Trimble Job XML format that can be exported from either Survey Pro or from Trimble controllers. In this example, we've got a drawing that's been generated from a Job XML file, and so here I'm showing you the active traverse editor, which actually allows you to view all of the field measurements, and if you need to, you can make corrections and reprocess so that your drawing is populated by points derived from the field measurements. Something that's kind of nice to do as well is it's easy to highlight your traverse editor and ask it to help you visualize where different measurements were taken. Now I'll switch to a more complex example here, which we looked at just before. This is an example of a topo project that was imported using our field software, Field Genius. And a nice thing is this is a product that is very nicely integrated into MicroSurvey CAD to ease the process of exchanging data between field and office. It's always nice to point out that whenever you do a Field Genius import, which you'll find in here, it's called the Field Genius Sync Wizard, what it will import is your traverse file, your points, your line work, and any other key settings like scale factor and so forth. Once I've done this one-step import, we'll see again, just like with the Job XML example, we've got our full traverse listing in here, and also over to the coordinate editor. Then we've got a listing of all of the points. A few things that we can tie into here from the Traverse editor is if there were images taken when performing field work, then these can be accessible here. And we'll notice also you've got this Google Maps icon here. And if I click on that, if this is a georeference project, then it actually allows me to view that point in Google Maps. A great feature that applies with all field data types is our field coding system, which we generally call AutoMap, or you might call it our field to finish solution. When we look in here, you can always assign an AutoMap that'll assign attributes to each of your commonly used field codes, and it doesn't matter what format you're working with, it allows you to assign characteristics in the drawing to particular field codes and have their insertion automated. So in this Field Genius example, I can just give you a few of the possible features. All of these tree codes or points were collected, and the tree code was used, and also some additional notation was added in the field to tell us what their size is. And then at import, the notations were recognized, and then a single block was used and scaled up or down to represent each of the different trees. You'll also notice that you've got a variety of colors and line types. So the field work is, or the line work is generated in Field Genius. It's got a graphical control for that. And on import, then the AutoMap compares the field code that was used, and then it can assign any characteristics that you've set up in your AutoMap. So we can assign the layer to be created for the line work. We can assign the line type to be used. We can assign the color to be used to create the layer. And of course, as you saw in the other example, we can assign any blocks that you want to see imported. This is a very long talk because it's a very deep feature, but at least I wanted to give you an overview. Another big advantage nowadays is the availability of online imagery, and as you already saw before, the Google Maps references as well. There's a feature over here on the MS Tools ribbon called Attach Imagery, which allows you to very easily pull in imagery from the Bing Maps server. So here I'll turn on an image that's already been inserted in the background of this topo job. A very useful reference. And another really popular feature is the export to Google Earth. So this allows you to export your points and all of your line work so that it can be viewed in Google Earth. It's very useful for checking to make sure that you've got your units and coordinate system settings properly configured, and it's also a very useful way of sharing information with clients. I'll change over to another drawing just to show you a few other aspects of interacting with field data. Here I've got another project where the field work was conducted using like Captivate, and again, points, line work, and coordinates and traverse files are imported. And it's important, again, even though I say it all the time, to point out how the MicroSurvey system is very interactive. And so what you can see, for example, here is that I've inserted what we call a smart label to this particular line that is defined by points 90 and down here in the other end, it's a little hard to see, 91. And those points are tied in to the traverse file, which I can view by going to the traverse editor. And if at some point that traverse file was recomputed, and I could show you where I can just highlight that and view all of the ties that were taken. If at some point I recomputed either 90 or 91, what's going to happen is the points are going to be updated, the line that connects them is going to be updated, and also the labels that you saw me plot, they're going to be updated. That's a really distinctive feature of using this point focus product that people who are working with CAD related products find really useful to know about. And then also the reason that I have this drawing open is, I'll switch over to the coordinate editor again. I wanted to point out how MicroSurvey has grown in the last few years to be a very useful tool for interacting with GIS databases. More and more nowadays, there's a lot of useful information available from GIS sources, and it's a very affordable way to get geographic information. So one aspect of the product is that it'll allow you to store attribute related information. I'm showing you here how we can store attribute data collection that comes from the Captivate system. You can do that with FieldGenius as well, and it's also good to note that images taken with the Captivate system also are visible within the drawing. And the reason also that I brought this example up is I wanted to show you how we've got a lot more tools that allow you to interact with GIS formats. If I show you the shapefile import, I won't do a demonstration here, but what you'll find is that we allow you to import lots of GIS formats. So you notice how you've got shapefile, and you've got KML, and you've got GeoJSON. Very useful tool. And also you can export. So you'll notice how here we've got the attribute table function, and so you can export both shapefile information, or you can export as a CSV file. The final data format that is becoming more and more popular that I'd like to show you is point cloud information. So let me start by showing you an example that comes from a UAV. Nowadays it's more and more common to be able to access point cloud related information that's generated from UAV, either by scanning technology or LiDAR technology or photogrammetry derived point clouds, and they're very useful for giving you XYZ data over a wide area, and very often it's an important shortcut for accessing information where safety is a big concern. So this act of mine here is a great example. So here what we've done is we've imported a point cloud that was generated from a UAV, and I'll just give you a bit of an overview of a few of the functions that a lot of our customers use this product for. So in this example, let's say we wanted to get an inventory of the trees that were along the road. So here we've just inserted some tree symbols here and sized them to match what you can see in the drawing. Very often what you'll want to be able to do is generate a digital terrain model, and we've used another tool that allows you to quickly survey the point data and generate a kind of a grid that represents the bare ground surface. And here I'll just hide the point cloud temporarily so you can see what we've done, and I've used those points to create contours and plot the contours. Another thing that has been done in this drawing is this little stockpile here was turned into a surface using both break lines and points. And here we could do a volumetric calculation from this. And another application of point cloud data that we often talk to customers about is accessing data from terrestrial scanners. So here's another example of an indoor scan. And this will kind of allow me to show you a few of the more architecturally oriented tools. And once you've got a point cloud loaded up, what you'll find is you've got lots of tools that allow you to assign an alternate UCS within the drawing to make it simple to performing drafting tasks. So in this example, I've used a tool to generate a UCS that represents where the wall and the floor meet, and that made it very simple to plot a polyline that goes all the way around the perimeter of the room. And you'll notice if I zoom in on the corner here, it's surprising how easy it makes things, because you'll notice how in the corner of the room we have a whole bunch of clutter, but it was easy just to use that tool to find the base of the wall that you can see represented up here. Another capability that is built into the point cloud module, you've got tools that allow you to slice and dice your point cloud according to your needs. And so here I'll quickly go into the clipping manager here and turn on a clip that just isolates just one of the walls in this room. And then as we spin around, what we can see I've done is, again, I've used one of the UCS tools to change my drawing plane to this wall, and you can see how we've plotted outlines for the windows and doors that are on this wall. And you can also see, I'll turn off the point cloud, you can also see how we've plotted dimensions. And so that's really useful information to get out of this scan. And then finally, so here we can see that we've got dimensions plotted for the doors and the windows. And if I switch over here to another layout, here we've got the floor dimensions plotted. Very simple, but you get an idea what you can do with the product. And then the final topic, of course, is exports. And this is almost a given at this stage, what kinds of things you can export, but I'll just do an overview. Once you've finished your work and you need to pass the data along to another client or to another coworker, of course, you can simply save and send an Autodesk compatible CAD file. You can save as a DGN file if you need to send the work to a Bentley user. You can export an ASCII file, which is simple enough to find right here. If you are sending work out to the field, then there's a very useful tool that allows you to highlight the part of a drawing that you want to send out to the field, and it generates a FieldGenius project, which is very easy to open up. And then in terms of exports, here we've got quite a number of other well-known classical formats. And one of the ones that I like to bring up these days is this Leica icon export. It works much like the FieldGenius one. It kind of allows you to window in an area in your drawing, and it automatically generates a DXF file and an ASCII file that's very easy to import into not just Leica icon, but lots of different formats. And another very commonly asked about format is LandXML. And MicroSurvey CAD allows you to store information that would be point information, alignment information, and surface information in the LandXML format, so for sharing either with other products or sharing with the field, and you've got that option built into MicroSurvey. So that's all that we can do in terms of exports and imports, or well, it's a tiny part of what we can do with the imports with MicroSurvey CAD. And I hope that the story that you saw at every stage along the way was that this is, again, it's a points first product. So we're always thinking about what you need to do with your points whether bringing them in or bringing them out, and what kinds of tools we can give to you that increase your efficiency when you're working with points. Thank you very much for watching this video, and be sure to ask questions.